Girl hides under the bed. What she tells her brother shocks the whole family. Aiden kicked off his sneakers at the front door, letting his backpack slump to the floor with a thud. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Normally, by the time he got home from school, his little sister Sophie would already be bouncing around, chattering about her day or singing along to some cartoon. But today, nothing. No TV blaring. No Sophie giggling. Just the low hum of the refrigerator and the steady tick-tock of the old clock in the hallway. "Sophie?" Aiden called out, frowning. No answer. Mom was still at work. She wouldn't be home for another hour. The babysitter always dropped Sophie off by 3:30, and it was already 3:45. Aiden's stomach twisted a little. Maybe Sophie was in her room, playing quietly. But she never played quietly. He walked down the hall, his socks muffling his steps on the wooden floor. "Sophie?" He tried again, pushing open her bedroom door. Empty. Her pink backpack was tossed on the bed, unzipped, her lunchbox half hanging out. Her favorite stuffed bunny sat propped against her pillow like she'd put it there before. Before what? Aiden's chest tightened. Something was wrong. Then, a sound. A tiny sniffle. His eyes snapped to the space under Sophie's bed. The blankets hanging over the side trembled slightly. "Sophie?" Aiden dropped to his knees, lifting the edge of the bedspread. There she was, curled into a tight ball, still in her school clothes. Her blue dress wrinkled, one knee sock sagging around her ankle. Her face was streaked with dried tears, her big brown eyes red and puffy. "Sophie?" Aiden's voice softened. "Why are you under there?" Sophie shook her head, pressing her face into her arms. "I don't want to come out." Her voice was small, shaky, like she was trying not to cry again. Aiden's heart pounded. Sophie never hid like this. She was the kid who laughed too loud, who danced in the grocery store, who always ran to hug him when he got home. "Hey," he said gently, reaching a hand toward her. "It's okay. You can tell me." Sophie hesitated, then slowly uncurled, scooting forward just enough for Aiden to see the fear in her eyes. And then she whispered something that made his stomach drop. Aiden froze. For a second, he thought he hadn't heard her right. Miss Bennett? The same Miss Bennett who wore colorful dresses and gave out star stickers for good behavior? The one who read stories in funny voices and always smiled at parents during drop-off? His hands felt suddenly cold. "Sophie," he said carefully. "What do you mean?" His voice sounded strange to his own ears, too tight, too quiet. Sophie's bottom lip trembled. She didn't answer. Instead, she slowly pushed up the sleeve of her dress. There, on the soft inside of her wrist, was a mark. Small but dark, like someone had grabbed her hard. Aiden's breath caught. His little sister's skin was marked. Someone had hurt her. "Did she do this?" he asked, pointing at the mark. His fingers shook. Sophie nodded, fresh tears welling up. "She grabs kids when no one's looking," she whispered. She says we'll get in big trouble if we tell." Aiden's heart hammered so loud he was sure Sophie could hear it. His thoughts raced. How long has this been happening? Why didn't she say anything? How many other kids has that woman hurt? Without thinking, he pulled Sophie into a tight hug. She felt so small against him, her little body still trembling. "It's okay," he murmured into her hair, even though nothing felt okay. "You're safe now. I promise." Sophie clung to him, her fingers gripping the back of his shirt. "I was scared," she admitted in a tiny voice. "I know," Aiden said. His throat burned. "But you're so brave for telling me." He pulled back just enough to look at her face. Her cheeks were blotchy, her nose running a little. She looked exhausted, like she'd been holding this secret for a long, long time. "We're telling Mom," Aiden said firmly. "Right now." Sophie's eyes widened. "But what if—" "No," Aiden cut in. "No what-ifs. Mom will know what to do. And that lady, Ms. Bennett, she's not going to hurt you again." He stood up, pulling Sophie with him. Her hand felt so small in his as he led her to the kitchen, where Mom's work number was stuck to the fridge with a magnet. His fingers dialed the number before he could second-guess himself. Each ring felt like an eternity. Then, Mom's voice. "Hello?" Aiden took a deep breath. "Mom? You need to come home. Now." The front door burst open before Aiden even heard the car pull into the driveway. Mom, Julia, stood in the doorway, her work blazer still on, her chest rising and falling like she'd run all the way from her office. Her eyes darted between Aiden and Sophie, who sat curled up on the couch, clutching her stuffed bunny. "Baby," Mom breathed, dropping to her knees in front of Sophie. Her hands reached out, then hesitated midair, like she was afraid to touch her. Aiden said, "Something happened at school?" Sophie shrank back into the cushions. Aiden saw the exact moment Mom noticed the mark. Her breath hitched, and her fingers gently turned Sophie's wrist toward the light. A muscle in Mom's jaw twitched. "Sweetheart," Mom said in that too calm voice adults use when they're trying not to scream. "Can you tell me exactly what happened?" The living room clock ticked loudly. Outside, a dog barked. Sophie's whisper was so quiet, Aiden had to lean forward to hear. She yanks arms. Sophie demonstrated with her bunny, jerking its stuffed paw. And covers our mouths if we cry. Mom made a sound like someone had punched her, a sharp, punched-out gasp. For 3 heartbeats, she didn't move. Then Aiden watched his mother's face change, her expression hardening into something fierce and terrifying. "Get your shoes on," Mom said abruptly, standing up. "We're going to the school." The car ride was silent, except for Mom's white-knuckled grip on the steering wheel and Sophie's sniffles in the back seat. Aiden kept stealing glances at his sister through the rearview mirror. She'd pressed her forehead against the window, her breath fogging up the glass. Then Mom's phone rang. Aiden recognized the school's number flashing on the car's dashboard screen. Mom stabbed the answer button. Julia Monroe. A man's voice, Principal Harris, oozed through the speakers. "Mrs. Monroe, I understand you're upset, but perhaps we should discuss this." "No discussion." Mom's voice was steel. "We're coming in, now. With all due respect, Ms. Bennett has an exemplary record." "Did you not hear what my daughter just told me?" Mom's voice rose, cracking like thunder. Aiden had never heard her sound like this. "No, this isn't a misunderstanding. My daughter doesn't lie about this." Sophie flinched at the shout. Aiden reached back without looking and found her small, cold hand squeezing his fingers like a lifeline. Principal Harris kept talking, his words smooth and slippery. "Procedure requires we investigate before making accusations." Mom let out a laugh that wasn't a laugh at all. "Oh, we're way past accusations." The car tires screeched as she turned sharply into the school parking lot. "We're in the show me the security footage stage now." She hung up before he could respond. For a moment, the only sound was the engine idling and Sophie's shaky breathing. Mom turned in her seat, her eyes glassy. "Sophie," she said softly, "I need you to be brave for just a little longer. Can you do that?" Sophie nodded, her chin trembling. Aiden squeezed her hand tighter as they walked toward the school doors, their shadows stretching long behind them in the afternoon sun. Inside those walls was a battle waiting to happen. The principal's office smelled like lemon cleaner and old coffee. Aiden sat stiffly in a plastic chair, while Mom held Sophie on her lap. Principal Harris, a balding man with a too-tight tie, leaned against his desk. "Mrs. Monroe," he began in a voice that sounded like he was explaining something to a toddler. "I understand your concern, but Ms. Bennett has been with us for 12 years. We've never had a single complaint." Aiden's hands curled into fists. "Because she scares kids into silence." The words burst out before he could stop them. Principal Harris's eyebrows shot up. Mom put a warning hand on Aiden's shoulder, but her own voice was sharp as broken glass when she spoke. "My son's right. You don't get complaints when children are terrified to speak up." She pulled Sophie closer. "We want to see the classroom security footage. Today." The principal sighed, like this was all very inconvenient. "That requires district approval." "No." Mom stood up so fast, her chair screeched. "My daughter comes home with marks on her wrist, and you want paperwork." A tiny sound cut through the tension, Sophie's whimper. "Please believe me," she whispered, fat tears rolling down her cheeks. Something flickered in Principal Harris's face. He looked at Sophie, really looked. At her tear-streaked face, at the way she clutched her bunny to her chest like a shield. His shoulders slumped slightly. "Follow me," he muttered. The security office was cramped and dim, the air thick with the hum of computer fans. A bored-looking technician glanced up as they entered. "Pull up room B12, Principal Harris ordered. The screen flickered to life, showing Ms. Bennett's classroom from a high corner angle. Kids moved around like ants, coloring at tables, playing with blocks. Then, "There!" Aiden pointed. The footage showed Miss Bennett bending over Sophie at the reading rug. Her hand clamped around Sophie's wrist, yanking her up too fast. Sophie's mouth opened in what was clearly a cry, but the video had no sound. Miss Bennett glanced around quickly, then dragged her toward the classroom supply closet, the same dark corner Sophie had described. Mom made a choked noise. The technician froze the frame. Principal Harris had gone very pale. I had no idea," he stammered. Aiden's stomach churned as he watched Sophie bury her face in Mom's shoulder. This was proof. Real, undeniable proof that his little sister had been telling the truth all along. Mom's voice shook when she spoke. "Call the superintendent. Now, and keep that woman away from children until this is investigated." As they walked back to the car, Aiden realized Sophie was standing taller, her grip on Mom's hand looser than before. The afternoon sun felt warmer somehow, like the world itself was breathing a sigh of relief. News spread faster than anyone expected. By the next morning, Ms. Bennett had been suspended, and a notice went home with every student in her class. Aiden watched from the kitchen window as TV news vans parked outside the school, their satellite antennas stretching toward the sky like strange metal flowers. Mom's phone wouldn't stop ringing. First, it was the school board, then other parents, some crying, some furious. "My son has nightmares about school, and I thought he was just being dramatic. There's a mark on my daughter's arm that she wouldn't explain." Each call made Aiden's chest tighten. How many kids had suffered in silence? How many parents had missed the signs just like he almost had? That evening, the house felt different, lighter somehow. Sophie colored at the kitchen table while Mom cooked her famous mac and cheese, the kind she only made on special occasions. The smell of melted cheese and butter filled the air, mixing with Sophie's quiet humming. When bedtime came, Sophie didn't argue. She climbed under her covers willingly, still clutching her bunny. But this time, she reached for Aiden's hand. "Will you stay till I fall asleep?" she asked. Aiden nodded, sitting on the edge of her bed. He watched as her eyelids grew heavy, her breathing slow and steady. Mom appeared in the doorway, her eyes tired but soft. She motioned for Aiden to join her in the hall. Out of earshot of Sophie's room, Mom pulled him into a tight hug. "You saved us, Aiden," she whispered, her voice cracking. Aiden shook his head, embarrassed. "Nah, Sophie was the brave one." Mom cupped his face in her hands. "You both were." Over the next few weeks, things changed. The school board held emergency meetings. New rules were put in place. More cameras, stricter teacher training, and most importantly, a promise to listen when kids spoke up. Sophie got a new teacher, a young woman with a bright laugh who let her students call her Miss Jenny. On Sophie's first day in the new class, Aiden peeked through the classroom window during drop-off and saw his sister grinning as Miss Jenny helped her tape a colorful drawing to the wall. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And let us know in the comments where in the world you are watching from. We love hearing from all of you. Thanks for watching.